Hello, everybody, and welcome back to more short horror stories. Tonight's first story is I Should Have Never Bought My Daughter a Dog. So, my daughter has been begging for a dog for several months now, and a few weeks ago, I finally relented. I went to the shelter that was a bit far out of the way, but it was run by this extremely pale, bald gentleman. I told him I wasn't looking for a project, just something cute and something easy to train. He didn't speak. No. He didn't even blink. He just outstretched that bony hand of his and pointed to a door, and out popped a handler. That dude had this weird velvet cloak with scribbles all over the lining. He was also hairless, shockingly pale too. In his hands was a small, cold black pup. It had barely opened its eyes. I snatched the pupper from him, and it felt unusually warm, almost feverish. But when it opened its eyes, it was foggy glass bulbs that seemed full of life. It squeaked out a yawn, licked my palm, and hit my arm with that cute little nub of a tail. Is this one satisfactory? The first bald man hissed at me. I nodded and brought out my wallet, but he held up his hand in protest. One does not pay with money. In due time, we will take what is owed. Well, I really never heard of getting a dog on a payment plan, but if he gave me enough time to scrounge up enough dough, then I really wasn't going to complain. I had a little bed for the pup in the sedan and sat him comfortably on the passenger side. It took me about an hour to get home, and it was the darndest thing, but I looked over at the little fella, and I swear he got bigger. In fact, he was using the doggy bed as a pillow, his long, brawny legs sliding off to the side. An ear twitched, and he raised his head with a guttural groan. His coat seemed darker, too. It was like looking into the blighted eye of a black hole. And his eye were seafoam pale. Marbles, really. I blinked at the thing, dumbfounded. He was really just too small to hold as a second ago, but right now it just seemed like an optical illusion. And he tilted his head and barked, the tone sharp, startling me a bit. Obviously, at this point, I was having second thoughts, but I just couldn't bring myself to let my little girl down. The dog burst out of the car and ran straight towards Becca with an ear-piercing cheer. Even from sitting in a car, it stabbed him right in the brain. The dog regarded Becca with an almost human level of curiosity, sniffing her up and down, and then when he was done, he sat and perched on the ground like a stone gargoyle towering over her. Becca could barely wrap her arms around his burly physique. The dog rested his drooling maw on her shoulders, and she looked at me with tears of joy streaming from those big hazel eyes. Oh, Daddy, he's so wonderful. She could barely contain her happiness, and though I was happy to see her so cheerful, I couldn't help but fake a smile. I tried to hide my unease at the dog's sudden growth. Only the best for you, Jelly Bean. Did you pick out a name yet? I asked. She opened her mouth for a fraction of a second, but then froze. She then leaned closer to the dog like he was whispering something to her. A ridiculous notion, I know, but after a moment, she finally looked at me, a wide, gleeful grin on her chubby little face. He says he has a name. It's Braxton Merkwater, Scourge Hound of the Nine Hells. He says we can call him Brax for short. I nodded and reluctantly patted Brax on his head. She was always so imaginative. Life with Brax got weird fast, though. It was the little things, you know. For one, he never went to the bathroom. Sure, Becca would take him out for walks, but he would just drag her up and down the street for an hour or so, doing nothing but patrol until eventually he got bored and decided to drag her back inside. He would barely touch his wet food either, not even when I threw in a hot dog for good measure. He would cling to Becca's side, and every time I got near her, he'd growl softly. He's just being protective, Daddy. He says it's all part of the pact. Becca would attempt to reassure me, but it sounded maddening. The final straw was when I let him play out in the yard once, and he spotted a small little bunny almost instantly. He sprinted towards it, galloping almost, and snatched the screaming creature, leaving nothing but a bloody patch of grass. Brax tilted his head upwards, the poor little bunny struggling in its maw. His glass eyes rolled back, and he began to consume the doomed critter, forced it down his gullet, and as he did, I could see the scrunched outline of the thing scratching his bulging throat as he choked it down whole. I looked horrified, and I couldn't believe it when Brax turned to me, his sagging, frothing jowls flapping in the breeze, and worse, I swear, he smiled at me. And then, I feel crazy, but he squeaked at me with this cry of the dying rabbit he slaughtered. After that, he just pushed past me and trucked back inside like nothing happened, and of course my sweet Becca welcomed him with open arms. They went off together. Brax said something, according to Becca, about needing her help fulfilling the pact. I should have stopped them, but instead I called the shelter. Yes, Mr. Bunley. A slithering voice cooed from the receiver. How did... Listen, you need to take this dog back. He's too much. I begged. I'm sorry, Mr. Bunley. I'm afraid all sales are final. No refunds, as it were. The voice mocked me. I didn't even pay anything for him, I screeched. Didn't you? The voice chuckled, and the phone fell from my hand as realization hit me like a truck. I charged upstairs, calling Becca's name, and she was nowhere to be seen in her room. Becca? Becca, where are you? I sounded like a madman tearing her room apart. Then I heard her voice from behind. I'm right here, Daddy. My blood froze, and I slowly turned. Brax was there, blood still dripping from his snout. I'm right here. The hellhound mocked me. And I'm not going anywhere, I promise. The next door we have is gone. My little girl is growing up. Daddy, I'm back. I reached down to pick up my daughter, Arena, at the school bus stop right after she climbed down. She just started kindergarten this year, but I still miss having her at home every day. How was your first day, sweetheart? Awesome. I met a bunch of other kids, and we colored in coloring books, and we had recess, and we had nap time, and a teacher gave us cookies. Cookies? I asked with an exaggerated face. She let you have cookies? Yes, chocolate chip. I had two. Did you bring me one? I asked, wearing my best hopeful face. No, Daddy. There wasn't any left. We ate them all. Oh, well, I guess then. It's okay for me to eat all the cookies at home too, right? No, Daddy, she replied, giggling. Those are mine. I said, buckling her into her car seat. I guess you do deserve lots of cookies. You are kindergarten now, after all. Yes, I am, she squeaked excitedly as I drove her home. She was so smart. Maybe she'd be a doctor like her mother. We arrived home and Irina ran off to put her things away. When she came back, I put on her favorite after-school cartoon while she got settled on the sofa. Paw Patrol, she screamed, clapping her hands excitedly while singing, Paw Patrol, we be there on the double. As she sang and giggled, I couldn't help but stare at her. She was perfect. I think back to the time before I had her, and it was like another life, a lesser one. After a couple of episodes, she turned to me. I'm hungry, Daddy. What would you like, honey? Can we have macaroni and cheese? We've had macaroni and cheese 3 times already this week, sweetheart. She gave me the most adorable pout I can never say no to. But I really want it. Please, Daddy. And the puppy dog eyes get to me every time. All right, sweetheart. But you have to have some veggie sticks too, okay? Yay, she said, going back to her cartoon while I made the food. When it was ready, she climbed into her chair. Let's eat, Daddy. And she began to eat her macaroni and cheese, and I ate the pasta I made for myself. I thought back to that day, years ago. My wife and I had been excited to have our first child. We'd done everything. We set up a nursery, taken classes, put in for maternity and paternity leave, me from the bank and her from elementary school. Everything recommended in the parenting books. When Jill's contractions had started, we had rushed to the hospital, looking forward to greeting our child. Then, things had started to go wrong. Prolonged labor, excessive bleeding, the baby presenting abnormally, crashing blood pressure, fetal diseases. The doctor said they did everything they could and the baby's vital signs started to get better, but Jill hadn't. Then she was gone. I was devastated. It was like my world had ended because it had. But I had to keep going. It's what Jill would have wanted. And now, 5 years later, I started to feel normal again. My daughter, I named Irina because Jill loved the name. She was thriving. I was starting to feel normal. I'd even thought about dating again, and though I'd likely wait until Irina was older. I wouldn't say that I was right in the world, but things were better. And I planned to make sure they stayed that way. The next morning, I dropped Irina off at the bus stop. Have a great day, sweetheart. You have a great day too, Daddy. I love you. I love you too. I waved at her until the bus was out of sight. Then I drove to a long-term parking lot, making sure that I wasn't on any camera. Parked, got out, took another car that I previously stored there. I drove 3 hours out of the city to a small town I'd identified in advance. From there, I went to a random, out-of-the-way mailbox that I'd chosen because there were no cameras nearby and dropped off a letter. Finally, my goal was accomplished. I drove 3 hours back to the lot, cleaned my decor car, fingerprints, and DNA, and switched back to my Jeep and drove back to town. As I sat home that night, Irina asleep in her bed upstairs, I imagined the target opening my letter. Hello again. I bet you've missed me. My daughter turned 5 this month. She had a very happy birthday with cake and lots of presents. She was super thrilled. You should have seen her. Oh, was that insensitive? I don't regret it. Speaking of regrets, do you regret going straight to work that night from the bar? Scrubbing into the operating room with your faculties still impaired, cutting open my wife with those unsteady hands. Perhaps if you'd been sober, it would have lived. We'll never know. Your colleagues on the hospital review board made sure that you were cleared and no real investigation took place. But I do know this. Since you took my family from me, it's only fair that I take yours from you. I hope you hurt every time you remember finding your husband's bloody, dismembered body in the park and your child missing. And then you'll know how I felt. So enjoy these letters, knowing that they're the only contact you will ever have with your daughter again. She doesn't even remember you, by the way. And maybe one day, I won't either. See you next year. Our next and last story for the night is, every year our mom tries to kill us. So far, our neighborhood's 4th of July celebration was a disaster. There were flies buzzing all around the funnel cake again, and my brother Joshua thought he was slick. I could see his fingerprints in the Patriot cake, frosting covering his sheepish smile. It was still a good turnout, half the neighborhood. "Josh," I asked, startling my brother, who immediately twisted around and pretended he wasn't raw dogging half the dessert section. I grabbed the Patriot cake and already melting through my fingers. I stuffed the sticky mess into his mouth. "If you're so damn hungry, eat these. No one else is eating them." Josh shot me a sickly grin, spitting out the cupcake into a bright red napkin. "Yeah," he pulled a face, swiping his lips, "because they're filled with raisins." He rolled his eyes. "Whoever made these monstrosities hates America." His gaze briefly found my outfit. "What are you wearing?" I stared at my star-spangled dress, so patriotic, so fucking loud. I almost felt nauseous wearing it. It was a little big on me, pulling at my feet, sticking to my clammy skin. Instead of responding, I choked down, guilt creeping up my throat. "Joshua," Mom's dress. Joshua's smile bled away. "Jesus, Camry." He twisted back to the dessert table, still smiling, still performing. His hands shook, curling into fists. "Maybe you forgot? Since you apparently have the memory of a goldfish." He snatched up a fruit slice and stuffed it into his mouth. I noticed a fly creeping across cream cheese. "Mom tried to kill us, Camry," he said through a mouthful. "In fact, it's the 5th anniversary of her trying to plunge a knife in my skull." "Keep it down," I smiled through my teeth. Joshua's eyes were unusually dark. He was still chewing, swallowing painfully, slowly, bright red frosting coating his lips. "You're wearing Mom's dress." His mouth quirked, but I could see him splintering. "You invited her." "Who's invited Mom?" Jasper, our older brother, joined us, out of breath, snatching up a cupcake. A lone fly sat atop a fresh strawberry. Jasper didn't even notice, of course, demolishing it in one bite. "Yo," he grinned through a particularly mushy bite. "You two look like you're having fun," he teased, grabbing another cupcake. "Damn, these are good." Joshua folded his arms, always the judgmental brother. He was still eating, and I didn't even notice him continuing his assault on the funnel cakes. My brother's acting like they hadn't eaten in a fucking decade. "Camry," he announced, "tell our dear brother that you've ruined 4th of July." "That's an exaggeration," I said. "Can you two stop scuffing yourselves for 5 fucking seconds?" Both of them frowned at me, frosting covering their mouths. Joshua spluttered. "You're too forgiving. Mom tried to kill us multiple times." Jasper nodded, his gaze lazily creeping on another cupcake. "I agree," he muttered. "You two probably don't remember." I did remember. Darkness, screaming, and being so hungry that I felt hollow, carnivorous, like my belly was swallowing me up. "Mommy." I remember my own wail rattling my skull, my agonizing thoughts. Why was she doing this? What did I do wrong? Were we bad children? Did she hate us? On those nights sitting against the door, my knees pulled to my chest. Every thought became denial, and then acceptance, and then denial again. Acceptance tasted like rot. Jasper swallowed down another bite of the cupcake, mulling it around his mouth. She locked us in the garage for months. My brother's eyes grew dark, like he could remember every moment, every pitch black night. Throwing ourselves against the door, we begged her to let us out. Cried, screamed, and sobbed. Jasper's voice softened. You two only survived because I managed to find the scraps to eat. Nothing fresh, Joshua mumbled, turning a cupcake around his hand. He took an uncertain bite. My point is, Camry is wearing the exact same dress our mother wore when she tried to jam a knife through my skull 5 years ago. I tasted some fruity pizza. The taste of melted sugar slammed into me, filling me with relief, pride, stupid, naive performing of patriotism. Joshua was right. I didn't care about the 4th of July. I was just performing for the neighbors, wearing the facade of a perfectly normal American family. I'm going to talk to her, I announced through a mouthful. I pulled Jasper into a hug, wincing at the stench of him. You, I'm attracted. Have you been stewing in a dumpster? A horde of festival goers swarmed behind us. Jasper grinned, with some friends. I left my brothers to tear apart the desserts, catapulting my legs into a sprint. Mommy was waiting right behind the door for me, her gun directly between my eyes. Mom's clothes were filthy, stained, hollow eyes widened when she saw me. Mom didn't even hesitate. Leave me alone, she told me, tears filling her eyes. Please, Camry. She reloaded with shaky hands. I so desperately wanted to hold. Leave Mommy alone. Mom. I held my hands up, slowly walking towards her. Where are your brothers, Camry? Why do you hate me, baby? Mom's voice rose into a cry. Baby, I will shoot you. For fuck's sake, Angela. A voice came from behind her. Ian. He'd been living with Mom for a while now. Jesus fucking Christ, give me the gun. Just her, not my boys. Mom whimpered, her head between her knees. I can't look at my baby anymore. All right. Ian pointed the gun at my face, lips curling. Why don't I just take the whole street of zombies out? They always come back, Mom whispered, every 4th of July. Ian strode over to me, sticking his gun to my forehead, and something inside me snapped. He didn't smell good like Mom. Ian smelled different. Look at the pretty flowers, kid, he grumbled, jerking my head with the barrel. But Mom, my jaw moved slowly, cupcake mush dripping down my chin. Mommy. Ian stabbed harder. Look at the flowers. I hope you enjoyed the video if you watched up until this point. If you did, stick around for some more. And like always, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.